Today we're going to be taking a look at 75435 Battle of Felucia Separatist MTT. The set will be releasing on August 1st with 976 pieces and a hefty price tag of $160. But I'll talk about the price more here in a minute. First off, I want to say I'm just honestly surprised that LEGO even made this set. If you would have asked me a year ago, I would have said that LEGO will never make a blue MTT. I honestly just always thought they'd only make the brown versions. I never thought we'd see a blue CIS model. I mean, last fall I even made a whole video about why this wouldn't happen, but lo and behold, in 2025 LEGO actually did it, and surprisingly it looks really good. However, this set is far from perfect, and we're going to dive into all of that throughout this video. On the back of the box you're going to find quite the scenes with some battle droids at the bottom right unloading stuff from the MTT, some droids over here that are dapping each other up, along with Commander Bly up at the top left corner capturing two other droids, and then like usual up at the top right you're going to have some pictures showcasing the set's play features. Opening up the box and digging in, on the inside you're going to find 8 separate numbered bags, along with your instruction manual and the sticker sheet inside this paper case, with the sticker sheet just having 4 small stickers on it, and the instruction manual being your typical modern LEGO instructions, just a very straightforward build process with a giant advertisement on the back showcasing all of the August sets. And if this looks familiar, it's because this is the picture that actually leaked a few months ago. Moving on to the minifigures, starting off with the one figure that's getting all the talk in this set, that of course being Commander Bly. After quite literally about 20 years of us asking LEGO to make this figure, they finally did it, and it's a bit underwhelming to say the least. In my personal opinion, there are 2 things that are wrong with this figure. The first being the gray printing on the cheeks on the helmet. I saw people online pointing this out and I didn't think much of it until I actually got this figure in hand, and I looked at the helmet and something did seem really off to me. So I looked up pictures of Bly in episode 3, and lo and behold, this section of his helmet is supposed to be yellow and not gray. And I was like, oh well, I guess that's why it looked really off to me. So yeah, I know it is a very small detail, but I really do think this section should be yellow. It would make the helmet look a lot better because the gray just doesn't look that great. And then the second problem is obviously the lack of a physical waist cape. I mean, in my personal opinion, the printed waist cape is just so aesthetically unappealing, especially with that new plastic shoulder pauldron, which I'll talk about here in a second. It just makes the figure look so top heavy and like a football player with giant pads on, and I just really don't like it at all. But onto that new shoulder pauldron piece, it looks really good. However, I do have to say, from some angles, specifically the side angles, it does look very wide, and this definitely could be off-putting to some people. However, the reason LEGO did this is so the arm can move back and forth. So in this case, despite it looking kind of off from this angle, I really do think they did the best they could. And then the rest of the figure, specifically the torso and the back printing, looks good too. When it comes to these clone troopers, I really care about aesthetic appeal over accuracy, and in my opinion, the only 2 things affecting the aesthetic appeal is again the lack of a waist cape and the gray on the helmet. All the other stuff people have been pointing out, like the ammo pouch on the chest or the chest being the wrong shade of yellow or whatever, I just think all of that stuff is ridiculous because it's honestly really hard to notice. Really, the only 2 bad things, in my opinion at least, are just the lack of a waist cape and the gray on the helmet. Everything else is just not very noticeable. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention, underneath the helmet you're gonna find the modern clone trooper face print. Next up here we have Ayla Secura, the first time LEGO has made this character since 2017, and it looks good. I really don't have much to say, just pretty average torso and face printing on the front and the back. Here you can get a nice look at that headpiece and then the printing underneath the headpiece on the back side, and then she's also gonna have a double-sided face. And if you're wondering, here is the old one from 2017, and they actually are quite noticeably different, especially with the face and torso prints. The headpiece is exactly the same as you can see here, but all the prints are different. And then next up here we have the commando droids, the first time LEGO has made commando droids since 2013, and obviously the controversy around these figures is that they are gunmetal gray and not brown like the old ones, and lots of people have been complaining about this because brown technically is the more accurate color. However, I'm not gonna lie, I know I'm definitely in the minority on this, but I really like how they look in gray. Despite them kind of being inaccurate, these are very clean looking figures, and they have a lot more printing detail on them than the older ones do. Here is one of the older ones for comparison. You can see that the newer one actually has quite a bit of chest printing going on that the older one doesn't have, and again, I just really like how it looks. And also, when you actually look at the source material of commando droids, a lot of times they're brown and a lot of times they can appear gray. So honestly, in my opinion, I think it could go both ways. They could either make it a brown figure or a gray figure, and it works just fine either way. And these figures kind of prove that because again, they just look really good in my opinion. And then lastly, you're gonna have 6 normal B1 battle droids, really nothing much to see there, along with the battle droid pilot, which is the exact one that came in the droid carrier from 2024. That, as you can see, has a very poor torso print. And I know these battle droid pilots have kind of always had these poor torso prints, but I'm not gonna lie, I mean, it's 2025, LEGO just fixed this already, put 2 layers of printing on there. Again, again, I know they've had this problem for the past 25 years, but fixing it late is better than not fixing it at all. Overall, on paper, this minifigure lineup is really solid. However, Commander Bly is just executed very poorly. Again, the two main problems are the waist cape and the gray printing on the helmet. Those are two things that I just think can't be ignored. LEGO really needs to fix these. But other than that, I like all the other figures in this set. Yes, even the commando droids. I think they look great. Now moving on to the actual build itself, I have to say this thing looks really good. I mean, it's an absolutely gorgeous model, extremely good detail, and extremely good shaping all around. I'm not gonna lie, in terms of just the build, this unironically could be argued to be the best MTT LEGO has made. Again, in terms of just the look of the build. However, this thing is small, like really small. Here you can see I can very easily like pick it up with one hand and kind of palm the thing. It's literally about the size of one of those Nerf foam footballs. I know it's a weird comparison, but that's what I thought of when I picked it up. And then it gets even crazier when you compare it to other sets that are in its price range. Here we have the 2023 Ghost and Phantom 2, which also retails for $160 and is also on shelves right now. And as you can see, it is significantly larger than this MTT. And it gets even worse. Here we have it next to the Star Destroyer that released last year, which is also $160 and also on shelves right now. And as you can see, it just absolutely dwarfs this MTT. It really is nearly twice the size, and it is the same retail price, and it is also out right now. And then here we have it next to the 2022 ATTE, which is $20 less at $140, and again is also out on shelves right now, and it is quite a bit larger too. It's definitely not as big as the Star Destroyer or the Ghost. However, there is definitely a noticeable size difference here, and it's insane because this set is $20 cheaper. And then if you're curious, here's what it looks like next to the 2007 MTT. It just absolutely dwarfs it. And while this model is small, that's only a bad thing because of its retail price. Again, it looks incredible. It's a very fun and intriguing build. It just should not be $160. As many of you guys know, I have been posting these price per gram comparisons on my community tab, and that's because I personally think this is the absolute best metric to measure the value of a LEGO set. I know price per piece has been the very popular standard for a long time. However, price per piece is such an awful metric just because of how drastically pieces vary in size. But price per gram, on the other hand, measures the actual amount of plastic in each set, so it's a much better metric to determine the value. And historically, throughout the 26 years of LEGO Star Wars, large play sets like this MTT have had an average price per gram of about 17 cents. So for play sets of this size, I consider 17 cents to be the bare minimum. And according to the added up weight of the piece inventory for this set on Bricklink, its total weight of just the plastic without the box and instructions comes out to 720 grams. And with a $160 retail price, that comes out to a price per gram of 22.2 cents, which is just absolutely insane. Now, if we take the bare minimum of 17 cents per gram and apply it to the weight of this set, it comes out to about $120. So based on just that right there, this set is $40 overpriced. But again, 17 cents per gram is just the bare minimum of sets this size. If we take a look at the new Playscale Jango Fett Slave 1 that releases alongside this MTT, it has a price per gram of only 15.6 cents, which if you apply a 15.6 cent price per gram to this MTT, it comes out to $110. And again, these two sets are releasing alongside each other. So that right there tells you that this set is at the very least $40 more expensive than it should be, which is just absolutely insane. It's disgustingly overpriced. Oh, and if you're wondering, here is the price per gram of all the sets that I compared it to earlier, that being the Ghost, the Star Destroyer, and the ATTE. So based off of all that information alone that I just showed you, I wouldn't recommend spending more than $120 on this set. The only reason I paid full price is so I can make this video. But enough talk about the price, let's actually take a deep dive into the set itself and go over all of the functionalities and play features. Starting off with the stat build here, just to get it out of the way. It's a new design, and it honestly looks very clean. I actually like this quite a bit, especially compared to the bulkier look of the older models. This new one just looks a lot cleaner and a lot sleeker, and it's very simple, but again, like I said, I think it looks really good. But now moving on to the MTT, on the front here, you're obviously going to have the printed dish piece, and for most people, this is kind of the highlight of this build. It's the only printed piece in this set, and it looks really good. However, one thing I do have to say about it is that the piece as a whole is attached very loosely. As you can see here, it wiggles around quite a bit, especially especially when you pick up the set and handle it a lot. And I'm not gonna lie, after a while, it does get kind of annoying. I wish this was attached on a little bit more securely. Moving on down to the bottom of the front, you're gonna find the two cannons on their ball turrets that you can obviously turn around and aim in any which direction you want to. I have seen a lot of talk about how the cannons on these ball turrets aren't long enough, and I'm gonna be honest, I actually think they look just fine. They could maybe be a little bit longer, but since the build as a whole is so small, the length of these cannons really doesn't matter. It looks just fine in my opinion. On the top here, you're gonna find these stud shooters that are implemented into the build very well. I mean, they surprisingly look really clean and really seamless up here. I think LEGO did a great job on this. And then of course, per usual, you can very easily fire them as you please. On the top here, you're gonna find a sticker of the two Vulture Droid looking eyes. That 100% should be a printed piece because as you can tell, the miscoloration of the gray on the sticker and the gray of the pieces is very noticeable. I mean, for the price you're paying for this set, there's really just no reason why this couldn't be printed. But regardless, this whole entire top section can open up very easily, giving you lots of space to the cockpit up here. And the cockpit itself is really not much to look at. It's a very simple design with one little stickered control panel up here. Well, actually I say control panel, but it looks to be like an actual diagram of the battle, which is pretty cool. And then you can take your battle droid pilot and put him up here. You kind of have to lay him down, and then you can fold the sides up and put the top back on very easily. And the shaping as a whole on this top section is super impressive. I mean, it looks incredible. There's lots of layering, lots of details, and I also just really like the shape of the very top, how it like slightly slopes downwards. It just looks really good. LEGO did a great job. And the great detail is going to continue on down to the sides here, where you're going to find these two stickered CIS logos, which like the Vulture Droid eyes on the front, should be printed because they're clearly a different shade of gray from the gray on the pieces, and for a set that's $40 overpriced, I think these could be printed pieces. But regardless though, this front section can actually open up. There's really nothing to see here besides these giant red arches and I guess a peek inside the droid rack in there. I honestly really don't see a reason for these being able to open up like this, but hey, it's there if you want to do that. Now, speaking of the droid rack, the way you open it is this knob back here on the back, which is not centered on the back of the MTT, and I'm not gonna lie, this might be my biggest gripe about this build because it looks like a freaking trash can sitting on top of the build back here, and that on top of it not being centered is just really annoying in my opinion. But anyway, this is how you open the droid rack. You just twist it and the droid rack comes out the front. It kind of comes out and drops down as you can see here, and the bottom and top doors actually open with it. And despite this trash can looking knob on the back being super ugly, the function as a whole is actually really awesome. Here you can get a better look at how those doors open and close with the actual rack. There's a little chain piece in there connected to the bottom door that kind of pulls it shut when you twist the knob. It's really awesome. And the rack alone without any droids on it honestly doesn't look very good. So to load it up with the whopping 6 battle droids, you kind of just fold them up like this and then they attach to it with their back. Like all MTTs, it's pretty tedious, but when they're on there, it actually does look pretty good. And then again, the function for the droid rack is just so perfect. This might be the best function for any MTT LEGO has ever made. I'm not gonna lie. Although as you can see here, it does kind of slam the droids down pretty hard and they can fall off. Now, despite this great function and the rack itself looking really good, the fact that it's $160 and can only hold 6 battle droids is super underwhelming, especially when you compare it to the 2007 model that can hold 16 battle droids. Moving on to the backside here, you're gonna find even more impressive shaping and layering and detail. I'm not gonna lie, this actually might be the best looking part of the build just because of how detailed they were able to make this. And then from there, you can very easily open up this entire back section, allowing for very roomy and spacious access to this interior. It's actually pretty impressive. However, despite this being a very large and spacious interior, there's really not much going on the inside. Really, the only thing to see are these gun racks that hold the battle droids blasters. Other than that, there's really nothing else. You can, however, get a good look at how the rack function works here, which is pretty cool. And then actually, I guess if you wanted to, you can kind of shove the stap in here, and it actually does fit pretty well. I mean, you can close it all the way back up and it doesn't get in the way, and it also stays out of the way of the rack function too, so I guess that's cool. Now, you might have noticed these giant black wheels down here that honestly do look really goofy when the MTT is opened up like this. From what I know, LEGO hasn't used wheels like this on any of the previous MTTs. However, I have to say they work very well. It slides super easily on a hard surface like this. Here's a look at what the bottom looks like with those 4 black wheels and then 2 wheels on the front. Again, they look goofy when it's opened up, but their function works really well. And they also give the MTT a very nice sort of floating illusion to kind of make it look like it's actually hovering. But that is really all there is to see with this build. Like I said earlier, in terms of just looks alone, this legitimately could be argued to be the best looking MTT LEGO has made. I mean, if I had to rate the build alone without considering the price and without considering the minifigures, I honestly would give this a solid 8.5 out of 10. But for the set as a whole, including the the sloppiness of Commander Bly, as well as the atrocious retail price of $160, I unfortunately have to give this set a 5 out of 10. Like I said earlier, I would not recommend spending more than $120 on this set. For the price they're charging of $160, it should really have more battle droids and at least 2 327th troopers, and also the build should really have about 500 more pieces. So again, do not spend more than $120 on this set. That is my personal recommendation. If you have $160 to spend on a LEGO set, please get either the Star Destroyer or the Ghost. You would 100% feel like you got your money's worth of those two sets. But with that being said, let me know what you guys think about this set down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more videos, you see on the screen right now.